Hello guys, the channel is calling. It is your favorite professor, Professor Bright Alozie. Welcome to the first episode of Africa the Country, where maps are wrong, the stereotypes are strong, and the questions are even stronger. Today, we're gonna unpack a classic. Do you speak African? So buckle up. This isn't just a question. It's a whole history. Well, let's start from Africa, the monolith. You heard right. Africa, the monolith. Unchanging. Just monolithic. And the story goes. Once upon a time, probably in the imagination of some bored European cartographer, Africa wasn't a continent. No. It was a single, mythical, crawling, sprawling country. A land of endless sunsets, majestic as they were, perpetual drum circles, oh yes, and a land of one universal language, African. A place where every corner looked the same, endless savannas, tall trees, majestic sunsets, everyone living in huts, dancing around fires, probably naked, wearing beads like they were perpetually auditioning for a National Geographic cover. And you heard right. In this mythical land, everyone spoke one language, African. Convenient, right? No messy dialects or regional slang, just pure, unadulterated African. It was easier for the benevolent explorers who, according to their tales, stumbled upon this Eden and decided to fix it. Because why not? Why not simplify a whole continent? After all, the people of Africa, they were all sitting around doing nothing, waiting for someone with a teacup, a cigar, and a Bible to tell them what to do. You're right. It makes it easier for those heroic explorers to come and fix things with teacups, guns, and Bibles. And so, once upon a time, in that imagination of the bored European cartographer, Africa wasn't a continent, but a mythical single country. Okay, now it's time to fast forward to the great pencil map. So, friends, fast forward to 1884, when Europe's finest gentlemen gathered for a world-changing tea party known as the Berlin Conference. They had pencils and rulers in hand, and with their rulers, they carved up Africa the country into decorative jigsaw pieces. Oh, they sliced through communities, sliced through languages, sliced through centuries of history with the precision of a very bad geometry student. Yes. Oh, Congo, sure. Nigeria, why not? Swaziland, sounds catchy. They didn't even bother asking the people already living there because, surprise, the people didn't matter. Surprise, they, the Europeans, discovered Africa. And this is why today's map of Africa looks less like a natural continent and more like someone's geometry homework. This is why the map is even smaller than it really looks. Borders were drawn and redrawn through communities, languages, and centuries of histories were reduced to neat little lines. Names were invented, and voila, the myth of Africa the country was born. But then there is another myth, the one language myth. And here's where it gets spicy, literally. In the imagination of many, African is a language, a magical tongue that spans the entire continent, spoken fluently by over, say, 1.4 billion people from Cairo to Lagos, Nigeria, to Cape Town, South Africa. African, the language, is versatile too. So it can switch seamlessly between Zulu proverbs, Hausa poetry, Wolof market haggling, and Igbo wise sayings. But here's a reality check. Nigeria has over 2,000, Africa please, Africa has over 2,000 languages. In my home country, Nigeria, there are over 500 distinct languages. And growing up, I navigated multiple languages like a linguistic trapeze artist. English in school, Igbo at home, and Pidgin for anything in between. It was a linguistic circle, a linguistic circus, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even at home, my parents spoke both English, Igbo, and Pidgin. Yeah. Well, let me take you to a personal story. Do you speak African? Oh, it was at a job interview. There I was, suited up. My CV gleaming with achievements, including fluency in 5 languages, which I stated in my CV. Then came the question. A highly educated panelist looked at me, genuinely curious, or so I thought, and asked, "Bright, you speak 5 languages. Wow. Do you also speak African?" For a second, I considered replying, "Oh, yes. And my favorite dialect is Wakandan." But instead, I gave my polite educational TED talk. I replied that no, there is no language called African. You see, Nigeria alone has hundreds of languages. And by the way, African as a concept is like saying Europe has one language called European, or the United States has one language called American. The look on your faces, well, need I say, it was priceless. But this wasn't an isolated incident. This question follows me whether I'm chatting with curious strangers, speaking at conferences, or navigating small talk in line at the DMV. So the big question now is, why do people think Africa is one thing? Why must people assume Africa as a single entity? Blame Eurocentric narratives, blame colonialism. You see, Europe's civilizing mission wasn't just about physical conquest. It was about narrative control. Europe didn't just conquer land, they conquered narratives. By painting Africa as a single, unchanging blob, colonizers justified their actions. If not, how else could they explain why they divided kingdoms, came with magazine guns and ammunition to conquer? Well, how would they explain why they renamed rivers, stole artifacts now proudly displayed in their museums? And today, pop culture doubles down. You see, Hollywood, textbooks, pop culture generally perpetrates this myth. Just watch Taylor Swift's Wildest Dreams to get the picture I'm trying to paint here. See how Africa and Africans are portrayed in that music video. Generally, Africa isn't even portrayed as 54 unique countries. It's a one-size-fits-all jungle safari. You want to see African tech hubs, skyscrapers, Nobel Prize-winning literature. Sorry, that doesn't fit the stereotype. It doesn't fit the safari aesthetic. Food for thought. But what lessons are we going to learn from history like this? Whew, a lot of lessons to learn right here. But let's get real. The question, do you speak African? It isn't just ignorance or a misunderstanding. It's reductive. It erases the continent's centuries of linguistic brilliance and cultural complexity and intellectual achievements. Think about the Swahili traders of East Africa, the intellectuals in the Nile Valley some 5,000 years ago, the griots of Mali who record history, the orators of the Igbo communities. Each of these and many more represents centuries of cultural evolution. Africa's languages and histories can never be reduced They all defy stereotypes. So when people ask this question, do you speak African or think Africa is a single entity? They're not just flattening a continent. They are flattening humanity and history. As Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said, the danger of a single story is that it reduces complexity. And Africa is way too complex to be reduced to a single entity. So, what should you say instead? Well, next time you hear this question, do you speak African? Or next time someone thinks, that there's one single language called African, here's what to do. Smile first and resist the urge to roll your eyes. It's hard, I know. Then respond, yes, I speak African fluently. I also speak human and a little bit of alien on the side. Well, for real, just kidding. Educate them. Africa has more languages than any other continent. Each one is a masterpiece of history, identity, and culture. So what's the big takeaway here? Picture a collage of African achievements, landmarks, cultural moments, peoples from all across the continent. Look, Africa isn't a country. It's a continent. A vibrant, chaotic, breathtaking patchwork of peoples, stories, cultures, and yes, languages. So to answer the question, do you speak African? Allow me to brag. No, I don't. But I do speak Igbo, Yoruba, English, West African Pidgin, a little bit of French, and the universal language of sarcasm. So my friends, that's how you make history, and a bit of humor. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and join me next time for more myth-busting madness. See you next time. I'm out of here.